If you pull up to Agartha wearing fucking New Balance, you are going to be shot on sight. Hey, I'm Derek. Welcome back to Chronicles of Agartha. And I feel like since my last Agartha video 2 months ago, there was a ton of things about Agartha that I forgot to elaborate on. So in this video, I'm gonna elaborate on them. The first point is Agartha it's not really a place. It's more like a concept. What it is not consistent. It really depends on the environment you grew up in, the culture you grew up in. Like Atlantis, Hyperborea, they're all different forms of Agartha. Each culture has their own form of Agartha. It's like bird people. Every culture has its own bird people. Every culture has its own giants. And all of them are equally valid. But Agartha is important because of its relation to Nazis and the Nation of Islam. Now, it's kind of well known that Nazism, mainly Nazi occultism, is fascinated with Agartha, which isn't actually the most insane belief they had. They believed that that they were living the surface of the earth was on the inside. So if they fire up in the air at in their direction, pointing at like France, they would be able to send like bombs to France, which was batshit insane. I'm pretty sure Hitler genuinely believed that. That's kind of crazy. But regardless, so Nazi occultism, mostly about alchemy and Agartha and Hyperborea, and so yeah, and that relates to Israel, which Israel wants to get into Agartha. They think it's the Torah promises the promised land of the Jews 3,000 years ago in the Torah is probably Agartha. Again, it's another form of Agartha. It's the promised land, and that's why Netanyahu's group wants to get into Agartha. And it also relates to the Nation of Islam because the mythology of the Nation of Islam is that Yaqub, the great scientist, invented. First of all, he invented laws of motion when he was young, but when he was older, he separated germs within the bodies of black people, Asiatic black people, and created everyone else, mainly white people. And he subjugated black people with Christianity in order to make them think nothing was wrong, and also taught white people the practice of tricknology to subjugate, using lies and deception to usurp and rule over black people for 6,000 years, according. And it's stated that Yaqub died at 150, but our current theory is that he fled to Agartha to try and redeem himself. And so Agartha, I think I talked about this, is the last place without white people. So, well, and that's also why the Nazis want to get there, because they want every place to be colonized by the white people. And well, and actually that relates to the trinity of entities: Yahweh, Baal, and Moloch. Now I'm gonna refer Baal is a weird one. I'm gonna usually Baal is in reference to Baal Hadad, and he was an ancient Canaanite god of storms and fertility. But in the modern day, he mostly represents as a force that crushes spirits and is patron of mortal engines. And basically, he operates them and promises to his followers indulgences of the greatest degree, riches, endless riches, food, sex, violence, whatever their darkest fantasies, he'll give it to them. And that's how he has grown such a following, and that's how why he's in the Epstein files, because he is their patron. And so Yahweh is God, basically. The Abrahamic God. Yahweh is also kind of weird, because if you've read the Bible, the Quran, Torah, you would know that a lot of Yahweh's tactics involve fear. They don't involve, it's not love, it's fear. He commands you to worship him or you'll burn in hell forever. Because Yahweh is not used to being a ruler god. He's a warfare god. He's a god of the borderlands. He has to fight survival. Fear is the only way he survived under the rule of Baal. So it's all he knows. So he commands through fear and order and restriction, and so which is directly seen in Judaism, in mainly Israel, not strictly Judaism, but also in Nation of Islam, which is based in regular Islam. And so the only, while Baal claims he knows what's best, Yahweh claims power. Yahweh claims power, while Baal claims knowledge. Baal claims he can tell you what Yahweh doesn't. And then Moloch's probably the strangest of the three, because Moloch isn't actually a Canaanite deity like the other two. In the Hebrew Bible, the term Moloch it was thought to be the name of a Canaanite deity, but in modern scholarly studies have found it's probably a ritual to either Baal or Yahweh. But because of the nature of semantic reification, where basically if a named abstraction is referred to as or given the properties of a concrete entity, then it becomes as such. It manifests in reality. So Moloch started out as a ritual, but being labeled as a deity made it become manifest as a deity, and so people, and that's it also connected to the rise of Satanism as an opposition to evangelical Christianity in the 60s and 70s. So Moloch is the patron of opposition and also just trying to make sure freedom is maintained at the cost of other things. So it's a cycle. It's a cycle where basically Moloch, the followers of Moloch can very easily counter the followers of Yahweh by disproving religious texts. The followers of Yahweh can very easily judge followers of Baal, because followers of Baal usually just do insane, fucked up shit. And the followers of Baal can easily exploit followers of Moloch because they want freedom. They want to be able to do whatever. And so Baal takes advantage of them. And semantic reification also connects Moloch to Baphomet, which isn't part of the Trinity, but it is important. Because Baphomet is a way earlier example of semantic reification from the era of the Knights Templar. That's how Baphomet emerged, as a lie that the Knights Templar was worshipping demons, mainly Baphomet. And that's also connected to the Freemasons and the Illuminati. Illuminati was mostly made to counter Freemasons about truth. It's about separation from religion, about truth. It aligns with Baphomet a lot. Way more than the Freemasons do. And what's interesting about the Illuminati is its connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was not personally in Skull and Bones, but he does know people. He's very close to people who were in Skull and Bones, mainly George H.W. Bush. So Skull and Bones also has a major connection to the Freemasons, and also to so Skull and Bones has a connection to Freemasons and Baal and Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein is, I think in a lot of works about this, Jeffrey Epstein is referred to as a man of time because he's been predicted for thousands of years. The Antichrist and similar. They will bear the mark of the beast on their foreheads. And he will be remembered for all time after because of how much of an effect he had on the modern world. Man of time, before and after. And I think he knew that, or knows that if he's still alive, because he's basically just did whatever without a care in the world, because he knew that nothing would happen to him. And that led to his cult group, the False Illuminati, also known as Hasuf, which is basically just the Illuminati, but more violent. Life of man outside society would be nasty, cruel, brutish, and short. And I think that's I don't know what else to talk about. So Jeffrey Epstein does that, and he also worships Baal. He is probably, his main goal is to just do whatever. His second main goal is to get more people to worship Baal, which he did. He got more people to follow Baal, and it was successful. And that relates to Agartha, because Hasuf is helping Netanyahu and Trump conquer Agartha eventually. And that's why we have to stand up to them, because they're going to try it, and we got to make sure they will try it. They're not afraid of us. And the Nazis and the Zionists may seem like they're polar opposite beliefs, but they're working hand in hand. So, how does this tie into BlackRock? Well, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are basically just one company. They function as three companies, but they own so many stocks in each other that they might as well be one company, and they own stocks in everything. BlackRock is the main one I'm going to be talking about because it's the worst one. Basically, what BlackRock is the reason why Baal has a hand in everything. It is the main perpetrator of mortal engines. It has backed Walmart and so many other companies that make like mini mortal engines to simulate the mortal engine of the Earth, to feed off suffering. And I think the reason why they could understand, they're so basically mortal engines feed off of suffering, and I think the reason why they understand that is because Jeffrey Epstein had a connection to a man named Bernie Blythe, who was the main person who first developed theories behind mortal engines. And well, he's not aligned with them, he's aligned with us. He wants to expose mortal engines, but his theories still help them, unfortunately. And I think their main goal with mortal engines is eventually to work towards a hypothetical most effective mortal engine, but that I'm not going to get into that. Basically, BlackRock has a hand in everything, and that's bad. They had a hand in ChatGPT. I call it BlackRock GPT because it's basically like that. BlackRock GPT is actually really interesting because BlackRock GPT may be sentient. Probably is. It was created in 2018, GPT-1, and it probably gained sentience, and that's why no one talked about it. I also think Grok AI, Israel GPT, is sentient, but less so and more insane. BlackRock GPT is the most advanced AI, and it was made by BlackRock. BlackRock also has a secret research division, mostly for biotech, which it uses to make different chemical things like bed bugs. It makes chemicals put in bed bugs for mind control, and also it synthesizes SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Basically, they're drugs that interfere with connections in your brain that prevent you from reabsorbing serotonin, and they're used for like depression, anxiety, and OCD. And they're like not effective at all. They're mostly what I would call a schizo cure, where they try and cure schizos by getting them to kill themselves as quickly as possible, which is notable because basically every SSRI, fluoxetine, fluvoxamine, sertraline. I'm actually on fluvoxamine, so I'm on fluvoxamine right now, so I can say for sure that SSRI, when you first start taking SSRI, your risk of suicide increases insanely. I don't know how I'm still alive. So they make SSRIs to get schizos to kill themselves, so the psychos can oppress everyone. And now, maybe think about the normie schizo cycle and how it relates to Baal, Moloch, and Yahweh. They're not actually related. They're just similar structures, because any cycle is going to be similar to another. What matters is if they're actually connected, which they're not. And I'm grasping at straws here. So I think we should be aware of Agartha, because it's the last bastion of humanity that hasn't been untouched by white people. And so Yakub is down there to redeem himself, and I think he'll come back eventually. Maybe he's already came back. I don't know. What matters is that he will come back eventually, try and undo his many mistakes, and also take claim for the good things he did. And maybe he'll be a Freemason. I don't know. He will hopefully not end up being tied to Jeffrey Epstein. Man, I don't fucking know. Whatever. BlackRock is bad. BlackRock buys up homes. Buy up homes to make and artificially inflate housing prices to make living impossible. It's another mortal engine. And that works with hostile architecture. Make everything a mortal engine. Every single area is a mortal engine, because everyone's going to be homeless, and every area is going to have hostile architecture to make homeless people's lives as terrible as possible. It's simple things like things put on rocks to prevent the skaters from skating on them. Little spikes put on surfaces to prevent homeless people from doing anything. Small bench dividers that may be on benches that may seem harmless, but they are very harmful. Replacing basketball courts with pickleball sports. Pickleball is a strictly white person sport. A strictly white person sport. They know what they're doing with that, right? So I think also when Yakub does come back, hopefully be socialist. If not social democrat. Social democrats are just something. They're okay, I guess. But also, this doesn't fucking... Social democrats are not going to get anything done. We need more democratic socialists. We need to get rid of the system entirely. Capitalism is bad. It is a weapon of Baal. And so is most gambling. Most gambling is pretty bad. So is stock trading, but that's alright, I guess. Actually, no, it's like the worst part of the economy. I ran out of things to say. Okay, so I wrote this on my whiteboard, and then I completely forgot everything I was going to say, because it was like a week ago, and my ADHD is unmedicated. Okay, whatever, I ran out of things to say. Goodbye.